Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our final August webinar. I am here with a dear friend and an extraordinary guest. We're going to be spending an hour really diving into not only the field of AI, but what is real about AI. Where are we really today? And what are the scenarios coming in the next couple of decades? What should you fear? What should you be excited about? Kai-Fu, welcome from Beijing. A pleasure to have you here.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. It's great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let me take a moment to properly introduce Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, Chairman and CEO of Sinovation Ventures, which is a $3 billion venture fund with a focus on exponential technologies and AI. He's the president of Sinovation Venture AI Institute. He spent more than 3 decades focused on AI, both in the US and in China. He was previously the president of Google China and a senior executive at Microsoft, at SGI, at Apple. He's co-chair of the Artificial Intelligence Council at the World Economic Forum. He has a bachelor's degree from Columbia, a PhD from Carnegie Mellon, New York Times bestselling author, and just recently published this book, AI 2041, 10 Visions for Our Future. And along with Ray Kurzweil is probably my go-to guru, futurist, creator of the future in the field of AI. So Kai-Fu, a real honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.
I've enjoyed our previous conversations and excited that you published a book to give us an excuse to get together and talk more about it.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, let's begin. 2041. How'd you pick that particular date? Why'd you pick that date versus 51, 61, or 31? And what led you to writing this book?
Well, 41, when you look at 41, and it kind of looks like AI, if you think about it.
Okay.
So that was the first inspiration that my co-author, my co-author Stanley had that idea. Hey, 41 AI, that's the year AI is going to happen. But also 20 years is a lot of things could happen. If you think about, if we went back in time 20 years ago, today would be an exciting vision to show the version of me 20 years ago. So I wanted to do that. And it's not so long that a lot of speculative things one could guess. I can reasonably still predict what might happen in 20 years. I think the predictions can be pretty accurate. I'm sure I'll miss many things, but I'm sure what I already predict in the book are pretty likely to happen. So I can responsibly make predictions. And the idea of the book is to write it as 10 stories so that they're more entertaining and engaging. You know, Peter, I'm not as a good writer as you are. So I need to borrow some help from a partner who is one of the top science fiction writers in China. So we collaborated to make these 10 short stories. He writes the stories, and then I write the explanation of the technology, implications, challenges, and how to deal with the challenges.
That's beautiful. And I've gotten my copy, and this book, by the way, is coming out on September the 14th. I think it would make a great a get-together conversation among the abundance community here. I agree, 20 years is enough for there to be massive change, right? In 20 doublings, we see a million-fold increase, but it's not so far that we start doing fanciful things, right? Because people will say, can you talk about the world 50 years from now? The answer is no. I can't. I can talk about the world maybe in the 10, 20 years, but beyond that, so many changes coming. Kai-Fu, you have been at the heart of AI in the most extraordinary companies on the planet, both in China and the United States. But AI has changed dramatically in the last really 5, 6 years. What would you say has been the inflection point where things really started changing? And is it because of just sheer computation? What is driving that rapid change?
It's certainly computation and even more importantly, data. The algorithms we use today, the fundamentals have been around for more than 30 years. But really only in the last 5 to 8 years have we started to get enough data to make those technologies work. So that is very key. But also the technologies needed to be tweaked. Algorithms need to be invented. I would say in the last 7 years, there were two pivotal moments. One was when in computer vision, when AI beat people in image recognition in 2014. And many applications really blossomed after that, right? In object recognition, automated retail, autonomous vehicles, and deep fakes and facial recognition, things you like and don't like, but many, many applications. So I think that was a big wave, 2014 to today. And then last year, I saw another big thing. It's in natural language. That was when AI started beating human in reading comprehension. And I think we're about to see another 7 years worth of equivalent natural language breakthroughs in financial, healthcare, legal, and just general search engines and machine translation and speech recognition. I think that will be the next 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, just the notion that you can speak to an AI. I mean, what GPT-3 and Microsoft are doing on natural language programming, right? I can describe what I want the program to do, and then the AI will write the code for me. It turns everyone into coders. That's extraordinary.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Kai-Fu, I hear about GPT-3 here and about what Google is doing, but I don't read or hear enough about what's happening in China in that arena. Are there equivalents there?
Yes, we're actually a proud funder of one of the natural language companies here. I think just as computer vision has allowed China to blossom, actually there were 4 big China unicorns starting 2014. So that was what began Sinovation's investment in computer vision. And the largest of the 4 computer vision unicorns is now worth 20 billion. The smallest is probably 5 billion. So I think the natural language might be another opportunity. So we funded a top natural language person who built essentially a technology that's 1/100th the size of GPT-3, but even more powerful for Chinese language in particular domains. So now we're exploring using it in advertising, translation, and question answering for financial. So that's a new investment we've made. Also, I think interesting applications are coming out. Think about targeted advertising, not at a group of people, but at an individual when you understand that person. Yes. Think about the ability to answer any questions about financial investments or healthcare. And I think in 7 years, we'll really be able to take a lot of these companies. Again, we're going to see 4 or more companies valued $5 to $20 billion. And we'll see giant companies like the Googles and Tencents of the world make use of that. So if people still doubt natural language, just go to Google search and ask a question. Many people don't know that. Google search has become so good at question answering that I think it points to the future of how that can be monetized differently in specific domains.
Amazing.
That's the ultimate search engine, right? It is. Not enter a series of words and find websites, but ask any question and get an answer. And I think that's within reach in the next decade.
Amazing. So I've heard you answer a question that I think is, I'd love to have you answer it again. It's the question of, do you think that if AI can make us happy? We all want happiness. And so can AI make us happy?
That is one of the chapters. And I make a prediction that the current thing that's so powerful in AI, the objective function, right, is something that with a lot of data, it can optimize. It's a double-edged sword. Large internet companies use the objective function to get us to read and click and buy. Sometimes consistent with what we want, but sometimes make us worse by showing us content we don't want to see. So I explored the question of, can we in the long term align what we want with the with the objective function, so that, imagine a news feed or a TikTok that's showing us news and content and blogs and video that isn't just getting us to click and watch, but makes us happier. So how do we measure happiness? I think the first approximation would be something like, are we smiling? Are pupils dilating, and measure our various wearable computing, heartbeat, and maybe even at some point with pads that can measure our endorphins and other hormones, and those things are objective. I am certain in much less than 20 years we can build technologies that will maximize those things. And I think, go ahead.
No, I agree. I've been wanting to launch a happiness X Prize, which would be specifically for tech to measure your level of happiness, so that you can then maximize it. Because if you can't measure it, you can't impact it. But I love that idea of AI that is controlling the lighting, the music, what you're seeing, because it knows what makes you happy. It's looking to maximize that function. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, that is one of the stories in the book. One of the stories is called The Isle of Happiness. It's about a Middle Eastern monarch who has an island where people go to it and contribute all their data for the benefit of being made happy. However, the ending is not as good as we both hope right now, because if we have something that keeps showing me things that makes me mouth goes like that, am I really happy? I think there's probably something deeper about happiness that is about self-actualization, being with people we love, not just being made to smile with higher endorphins. So how do we measure that? That becomes a lot trickier. So the ending of the story is actually that, well, the make us smile kind of happy, make endorphins go up kind of happy is not bad, but it's not the ultimate thing. So a lot more work needed to be done. So that's how we end that story.
Fascinating. And we all love challenge, right? So winning too easily is not fun at the end if you don't have challenge in your life. So there's another story called Age of Plenitude. Can you give us an overview of that chapter, that story?
Certainly. This one is almost 100% aligned with your book and Project Abundance.
Yes.
It's about the future. If we think about the cost of goods, it's really in three large parts: the materials, the labor, and the energy. So the labor is going to become automation. So that will dramatically drop, perhaps close to zero, at least in marginal cost once you buy the robots. The materials, with the material revolution, that's going to come down in price and become greener, being materials we made out of molecules and atoms and photons, and not so much, chemicals and so on. And then energy, of course, the combination of solar energy and improving batteries beyond lithium will reduce the cost of at least distributed energy dramatically. So with all three dropping, we'll be able to make things for everybody. Everyone should not only be able to have subsistence, but they should be able to live a reasonable, somewhat well-to-do, happy life. So in that case, what should people pursue if they're not pursuing the accumulation of wealth? And if also many jobs are being done by robots, they also don't have to do routine jobs. So what should people pursue, and what should be the new currency? Not just accumulation of money, but new currency that encourages people to pursue things that may be spiritual, individualistic, things people are passionate about, things that contribute to the love and connectedness of the world, and things that help people become actualized. So it's a kind of an exploration on the economics of the future in an era of abundance or plenitude.
I love that. And there's a great book called Zero Marginal Society by Jeremy Rifkin, in which, if all of a sudden energy is effectively free, materials are free, nanobots and robots are manufacturing, what does have value. And did you reach a conclusion in that story about what the new currency is?
No. Okay. I talked about, because I think 20 years is a little too soon for that. But yeah. But we'll see prices drop. We'll see poverty being dramatically reduced, if not wiped out. So I point to the direction that it would be some kind of an AI that's able to measure things like, am I adding more warmth and empathy and compassion with the groups that I meet with? And if so, can I get some reinforcement to do more of what I do? Similar to the way we make money, right? Can I work really hard and then be rewarded with tokens called money? Or versus can I contribute to the positive feelings and be rewarded with some other virtual currency? So it's an exploration of doing that, and also showing some downsides, because just like when money is a good thing, a good invention, but it made people greedy. It made people do bad things. But these spiritual tokens could do the same. So the story explores both the positives and the potential downsides.
Interesting. I'm excited to. By the way, everybody, I'm listening to Audible all the time, and Kai-Fu said that the Audible is going to come out on the same day, September 14th. So I'm excited to listen to the book. Kai-Fu, given your leadership in the venture world, and for those who don't know Kai-Fu, he is a massive celebrity, not only in China, but the number of followers you have and the people who follow your work is extraordinary. You see so many different companies, so many great companies. And I remember over the dinners we've had, you've told me about a few, and I'm always fascinated. Do you mind sharing a few of the more interesting companies in their business models here?
Sure. I think in China, the area that's really taking off is healthcare.
Yes.
And robotics. Robotics, because China is the factory of the world. So some of the robotic companies we invest in, one is kind of the low-hanging fruit in turning every forklift into a autonomous forklift. So it's actually a traditional forklift company that went electrical back about 5 years ago. Is a very visionary CEO. And he just said, why do we have these gas-powered forklifts anymore? It should be electrical, it should be cleaner energy. Then he said, once it's electrical, it should be automated. So we're in the process of helping him create this whole new company that will have automated forklifts that will move things around and work with swarm technologies so that humans are not needed. But there's a transitional path. Initially, people still have to put things on the forklifts. Then they move to the destination. Then they plan their own paths. So I think that will be a dramatic improvement in the factories. And another example is a company building a soft hand. So one of the problems with picking is that the metallic fingers are not very good at grabbing soft things. But we have this company that has a breakthrough in material science. So there are like five balloons, small balloons on a robotic finger that can pick up anything, including an egg yolk. So there are many exciting new ways that now picking can be done. And then the final company that is both in robotics and in healthcare is one that is called Mega Robo, and it is automating the drug, basically the drug biology and medical business. So rather than when you first think about robotics, you're probably thinking, let's make an iPhone with a robot. That turns out to be hard because of the dexterity and hand-eye coordination needed to look at all the fine elements. But actually, the medical technician who does, let's say, a COVID test, or who does an experiment for a researcher, and Peter, you would know all about this, can be automated relatively easily and programmed. So here's a giant robot that actually does hundreds of parallel medical healthcare drug discovery experiments. And that can have the implication of not only doing COVID tests and any tests faster, blood tests faster, but also dramatically improve the speed of drug discovery, because the experiments can be done without the laboratories and the humans in the laboratories. So cutting over to healthcare, well, thanks for introducing me to In Silico Medicine. That's a company we jointly work with, and it's great that they've made the first human plus AI invention, creation of a drug that's able to deal with fibrosis and not only pulmonary but also kidney, and it's a huge deal. And I think more importantly, they have a platform for other researchers to invent on that, and maybe even an open source version that can make the current process of blockbuster $2 billion drug discovery to much lower price, so that rare diseases can become treatable. There are many others. I'll stop here.
I'm going to hit a few more fun points. What's the state, in your opinion, of quantum computing, and how is that going to impact the field of AI? All the science fiction books I read have a quantum cluster underground in Beijing driving this extraordinary AI capability. What's real? What's going on there?
Well, finally, I think we are seeing predictable progress in quantum computing. More logical qubits every year. IBM, Google, and others are competing and improving. So even though there's still a lot of issues like stability that needs to be overcome, but I think we can predict probably less than 20 years, we'll see a working quantum computer. Based on various expert analysis, somewhere between 10 to 20 years. And AI probably won't be the first application, because essentially every algorithm has to be rewritten for quantum, because it works differently. I think everyone agree that security will probably be the lowest hanging fruit, because effectively the algorithms for security have already been demonstrated, both for breaking security and for building unbreakable security. So that is a fairly certain conjecture. And that's why in this book, I actually, the story actually describes a mad scientist who invents the first quantum computer and uses it to steal Bitcoins, because there's cryptography security to be broken. And that is actually very doable, very low-hanging fruit. And if any of the people watching this podcast have old-style Bitcoin wallets, better move it before quantum computer steals it away.
And there is AI encryption. There is quantum encryption, is there not?
Yes. So once Bitcoin implements quantum encryption, can never be stolen again. Yes. But that's very expensive to implement. Yeah. And the problem is many people have Bitcoins that they forgot the wallet address, or put it away, or it's too complex, or don't know of this vulnerability. So someone's gonna do some serious heist and take that money away one day.
Kai-Fu, let's turn to the fears people have around AI and try and put some reality. There's a lot of fear mongering that AI is going to, destroy the world and so forth. And, I think I know your position. I agree with Ray Kurzweil that that's not the case. We're not worried about AI running amok and, taking things over. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about what is the peril of AI, if realistically?
I think all the externalities people talk about are real. AI is brainwashing us because of the misalignment of interest in objective functions. There are issues with transparency, explainability, and issues with personal data protection, security, and fairness and bias. I personally believe most of these problems, 90+%, will ultimately be solved by technology. Mm-hmm. So as an example, personal data, can we have our cake and eat it too? Not let Google have all of our data, but still let Google train smart AI. that can mostly be accomplished through federated learning, where our data is only put on devices that we trust, say our phone or our hospital's servers that have our patient data, and then maybe Google has some data that they must have to have us as a customer. The rest can be trained distributedly and then grouped together using federated learning. So I think technology solutions will address and largely solve most of the problems, working with regulation and self-discipline by the large companies. So I think that's kind of one set of dangers. Another set is dystopia, AI gone amok and become evil and manipulate people. I still hold that in 20 years, AI will not have self-awareness and therefore any desire to speak of or any need to control people, that AI will become ever more powerful and super powerful, but not super intelligent, in the sense that super intelligence presumes it has everything people have. That is our self-awareness and our emotions and our desires. I make the case that we have too large a gap to overcome that in 20 years, so not to worry. And then there's a third one that people don't actually talk about too much, which is autonomous weapons. I worry greatly that the cost of building what's basically everyone's on your show, I'm sure have seen the slaughter bot, right? The $1,000 drone that's tiny that can do facial recognition and shoot a bullet or dynamite and kill that person and become a personal assassin, either one person at a time targetedly or built in swarms of hundreds of thousands. That don't cost that much money, and you no longer need a suicide self-destroying bomber. You have robots doing that. So whether done at a individual assassination level or as a swarm that can wipe out a country, a city, a race, a gender, I think that's incredible danger, and because the technology is becoming lower cost and accessible to not just countries or even companies, but now to individual terrorists and hobbyists. So I think something needs to be done about that. That's the one I do worry about.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is something that isn't sufficiently addressed, and as AI becomes embedded in everything, one of the things I remember when I was visiting you in Beijing, Kai-Fu, you were talking about, $5 chips with machine learning capabilities on them, and being able to embed those chips in anything, so that you can make kids' toys with machine learning AI capabilities in them. And that was 4 years ago. So I think a lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
Let's talk about jobs. You have a story about jobs in the book.
Job savior.
Yeah, tell us about that story, and also should people be concerned? The chapter is called The Job Savior. Yeah.
Right. Well, my belief is that AI will be able to do many routine tasks that people do. So on the one hand, that's liberating for us, because in 20 years, we don't have to do much routine, boring tasks anymore. But on the other hand, many jobs have significant and even are almost fully routine, and those jobs will be replaced. So the job savior is the story of an environment where people are put out of work. So companies are laying off departments. So maybe the accounting department, maybe the data processing department, maybe the assembly department or visual inspection department, and then who can get these people reemployed. So the story is about a government that decides that it would provide social welfare of whenever large departmental layoffs caused by AI happen, a company will go in and then assign and retrain the individuals and get them reemployed. Essentially think of this as a social welfare, but not delivered as pure money, but as money plus help to have people become reemployed. But then this type of company called Job Reallocator ran into a number of new problems. One is that people lose job A, then they get training for job B, but in a few more years, job B gets displaced. So there's basically a big backlog of people they have to help. Second problem is largely jobs are replaced at the entry level, but in any corporate hierarchy where entry-level jobs are gone, how do people get the experience, the learning, and the chance to become leaders and great in their jobs? So one of the job reallocators came up with an idea of why don't we use VR technologies and put people into new jobs where they're working and think they're contributing, but actually maybe they're not. So this is blurring the line of virtual job and real job to keep people employed, feeling like they're contributing, feeling like they're learning, and they are. And then really for the purpose of helping them to find a future and improve themselves and potentially become leaders. But the job they're doing, the very minute they are reallocated, are meaningless. Yeah. So that's the story.
Giving people purpose or perceived purpose in the process. Right. I think we're going to go to our community questions in just a moment. I think one of the areas that's got the biggest potential for transformation that I haven't fully seen yet is AI in education. And I am curious what you're seeing. I don't know if you have a story about that here that you can share, or some of the companies you're investing in, but we're still educating people the same way to a large degree that we have for 50 years. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, education has been one of the areas that's been slow to evolve, partly because education, if you think about it as a product, is a very long cycle to measure the impact, right? If you tweak education in high school or college or even elementary school, it can take decades before you see the impact to the people who graduate. So people have been reluctant to take bold experiments in education, and that's understandable. The story in the book talks about a AI companion that's maybe not exactly in a school curriculum kind of education, but more provided perhaps by parents to help as a companion to help the kids grow up. And the companion combines education and entertainment. And in this story called Twin Sparrows, two twins were separated and adopted by different families, but they have a bond because they each have an AI companion that it caters to their needs, but keep them connected in some way. And so that when they grow up, even though they haven't met each other, they remain connected. And on top of that, the companion is shaped in the form of something that's entertaining and fun. So maybe a superhero or maybe artistic cartoon, and they appear in VR and in the phone, and they become conversational agents. We're projecting this to be one of the big natural language applications and have dialogues that entice the kids to become creative and empathetic and good team players. And so they're kind of coach, mentor, friend, companion, built in a specific way to the individual child, which a teacher cannot really do. So it's kind of crafted in more possibilities because it's virtual.
It sounds a little bit like Diamond Age and the Young Ladies Illustrator primer. And I do think that's one of the most important things is, as parents or as teachers, our job is to try and engage and inspire and guide. And sometimes it's a lot easier for an AI perhaps to do it. Kai-Fu, let's go to the community questions. Nia, hopefully you have many.
First question, has writing AI 2041 changed your view of AI and its impact on society?
I think it hasn't changed my view, but I hold the belief that writing and teaching really forces us to become more complete in our thoughts, right? Because when I'm just thinking and doing, I don't think completely. for all the corner cases and opportunities and situations. So for example, by working with Stanley, my co-author, to flesh out the job savior, we push the edge to, okay, what does happen? What if you put VR and make people think they're working? What are the issues that will come up? So I think writing and teaching really pushes me to make sure the arguments are more bulletproof, more complete, and think of more scenarios. And I think it helped me formulate a more complete theory and hypotheses about what AI can do. So I would encourage more people to, if they have time, to write down what they're thinking for public sharing and contribution, or also to teach. I think those are really two great things that everybody should do on the subjects that they love.
And tell us 1 second about Stanley, award-winning science fiction writer. Is there a favorite book of his that you've read?
Yeah, he's written many books. He's written Waist Type is one of the stories he's written that's available also in English. He's very creative, and his stories are unique in the sense that they are interesting, independent of the science fiction component. So he often he loves finding more about cultures and embedding them into the stories. So in these 10 stories in AI 2041, the 10 stories actually take place in 10 different countries. And I think partly it's interesting to read because you get to know more about cultures, but also it's trying to demonstrate the idea that AI impacts every country and every citizen on Earth.
Amazing. Nia.
Next question. How can we be AI wise? To not fear or be bound by the AI algorithm, not to be bound by AI's vision, will, and goals, rather than that of humanity's.
Right. Yeah, AI doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have any desires. It doesn't. So I don't think we need to fear AI for that sake, right? All the things we see in Terminator or Her, the inherent hypothesis is AI has a mind of its own, self-awareness, desire, a desire to love, a desire to hurt, a desire to control. That doesn't exist. So we should let go of that worry, at least until a huge breakthrough comes out sometime, who knows in how many decades. But AI does have an optimization capability, and it is a scary optimization capability. When AI is told to maximize click-throughs, it will do so with such precision and accuracy and targetedness that it doesn't care about anything else, like such as our well-being. Are we becoming more knowledgeable, or do we feel it's time well spent? It doesn't care. It just wants the click-throughs. So I think that is the danger, and that is a significant danger. And I think what needs to be done is people who work on AI should be aware that the tools they possess are extremely powerful, and with the power comes great responsibility, so that there should be more technologies that expand the horizon of AI's objective functions. While it's great that they can optimize one thing, most things in life are not single-minded optimization. I want to see a newsfeed that is interesting, that I would click on, that I would read through, but also that makes me feel better, that is time well spent, that it makes me happy or more knowledgeable. So I would like to see, I hope that there are explorations that will make multifaceted objective functions that are not so just single-minded in the future. So I think when we read about all the great things, the power of AI, and also the externalities of AI, remember it's one thing, and I hope technologists will make future versions of this one thing that has more of the positives and solve some of the negative problems.
Thank you, Kai-Fu. Nia.
What is your favorite chapter or story from AI 2041?
There are many. I think the most exciting story is Quantum Genocide. It's an action-packed Hollywood-like movie with a mad scientist who wants to destroy the world, and he first uses quantum computing to steal the bitcoins. Then he makes these killer drones to kill all the elites in the world because he thinks all the problems of the world are caused by the elites. And then he does many more things. And then there are these heroes and heroines who try to stop him. So that's the most action-packed one. But actually, my personal favorite is the simplest one. It's a story that takes place in India, where, as we know, there has been a caste system for many, many years. But the country and the people have been trying to do away with it. And it's even, and we project that they do a great job, so people don't talk about it or feel it that much anymore. But the story is one where a powerful insurance company also builds a lot of great apps. They try to make recommendations for people, where to go, what to eat, what to do during the day, taking into consideration how to make you healthier and thereby lower the likelihood that you will be ill and have an insurance claim. So on the surface, it seems completely innocuous, not having to do anything with the caste system or, the equivalent of US racial issues. Seems completely innocuous. Also, the insurance company has a goal that's perfectly aligned with me. I don't want to get sick. They don't want me to get sick. So can an externality happen? So it so happens that through AI data, it's still inferred the different castes, the Brahmins and the untouchables, if they intermarry, it creates a significant financial and health downside for a Brahmin. Even though people are not called Brahmin or untouchables anymore, that's buried through thousands of years in the culture. So it's still inferred because of where someone lived, how much money they have, etc., that we should avoid having these people become married, because if they marry, then it will bring down the higher tier person in health and in wealth. Then it proceeds to obstruct their love becoming developed. So it's a romantic story, but the real idea is AI externalities are extremely serious, because in a culture where the racial issues are ostensibly gone, and in an application where the app's needs and the user's needs are perfectly aligned, it can still do terrible things. So I like the story because it's very creative in that sense. It's the first story called The Golden Elephant. Yeah. And it shows Stanley's as a great writer, because an insurance externality is a very boring topic to write about, but he made it very interesting into a romantic story, but also with deep implications.
Very cool. Mia.
You mentioned that we'll likely see a working quantum computer in the next decade or two. What do you see as the most important applications of quantum computing at that point? Is it Bitcoin, as you mentioned, or something else?
Right. Yeah. If we project the current rate of improvement and read and take seriously IBM and Google's projections, a 4,000 logical qubit computer should be possible in the next 10 to 20 years. As I mentioned, don't think of that as a improved computer. Think of it as a completely different animal. It's not like a mainframe becoming a PC, or a PC becoming a Mac, or a CPU becoming a GPU. Those are all still, in the words of quantum computer researchers, those are all classical computers. Programming these things are basically the same. Programming a quantum computer requires a completely different methodology, algorithm, language, and even mindset needs to change. So one way that people are doing is, let's say a quantum computer comes out in 15 years. Well, how do we, if we don't have any programs, what's good of a computer? So simulators are being developed, but simulators are much, 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 much slower than quantum computer. The whole point of a quantum computer is that it's orders of magnitude faster. So how do you simulate it? So that becomes kind of a dilemma. But some algorithms can be written mathematically. and an MIT professor, Peter Shor, basically wrote a quantum algorithm on paper that's mathematically provable to say, if you have these types of security, cryptography algorithms today, here is how to break them. And that's where the breaking Bitcoin cryptography comes from, because it's one of the very few known and mathematically proven algorithms that do work. But it's more than Bitcoins. The same paper also says, well, what to do? Quantum cryptography actually provides a absolutely completely secure way to protect your password and content. Even quantum computers cannot break quantum cryptography. So that, I think, is actually the biggest finding, and the most important known algorithm is to have a infinitely safe way for cryptography. I think that's actually the big contribution. Stealing Bitcoins is just a eye-catching way to make the story interesting.
And one of the things that I'm tracking, Kai-Fu, and I'm sure you are as well, is quantum chemistry, the ability to actually model at a molecular level, molecular interactions, right? So I believe that we'll see new material science breakthroughs and new drug development breakthroughs coming early on.
Yeah, I mean, quantum is the way we model the universe. So so should be a much better way to model chemistry, biology, and I'm a big fan of the work in quantum chemistry that David Shaw and others are doing. So I think, yes, those are the likely next steps. AI is actually one that people really haven't thought as much about, because it's not as inherently quantum as cryptography and chemistry and biology.
I heard, and I don't know this as well as you do in practice, that that quantum can be used for machine learning algorithms versus neural nets. And again, of course, the question is the brain a quantum computer? We'll learn more on that front. All right, Nia, next question.
Can you talk about the issue of deep fakes and privacy?
Great question.
Good question. Yeah, actually, somewhat sort of two questions. Okay, so on deepfakes, one of the stories in the book is called the Masks of the Gods, and it's a deepfake story. I won't go into details of the story, but I'll just say that deepfakes are becoming a very serious issue because they're becoming more and more real. And even though there are these contests out there that claim that try to see who can build the best deepfake detection algorithm. Facebook and others are rewarding such algorithms, but I will simplify the description as follows. Deepfakes basically work with a technology called GANs, and GANs are a adversarial network where you have one network that tries to fake it, one that tries to detect the fake, and then they can both improve each other until they're at an equilibrium. So what this implies is anyone who uses a GAN to detect a deepfake, the bad guys can also say, I'm going to use the faker algorithm to build the next fake to make it undetectable. Then the good guys will say, well, I'm going to build the next detector that will make the fake detectable again. So it's an arms race that goes deeper and deeper. So in some sense, deepfakes are actually so scary that they're not infinitely catchable, right? Because a lot of other bad guys doing bad things with viruses are ultimately catchable. In this case, it's an infinite arms race. It's whoever has more computing wins. And how can we have any assurance that the good guys will always have more computing? So we're basically destined to live in the next at least 10 years in a world where there will be completely indistinguishable videos and images and speech that will be used obviously for entertainment, and which is fun. You can have movies that are made without actors, wonderful, but and cheap. It's cheaper and more realistic, and we'll have more movies. That's a great thing. Games, that's the great thing. But then it can be used to make a incriminating video. Actresses who have had their faces put on porn videos. And we've seen that as a big news item. But also there will be courtroom evidence that are faked. There will be accusations. There will be rumors spread about certain politicians saying some things they didn't say with a video to prove it. So in the story, in the analysis of the story, I talk about all of this, and also my prediction that first, I think the good guys should do the best they can to catch as much as they can, but they can't catch them all. So we need to be prepared for a world where we are by default doubting anything we see. We should first ask the question, could this be fake? Which we have not had to ask before. Wow. But we have to do that.
Yeah.
Until what point? There are technologies that can guarantee authenticity. One could imagine a blockchain technology being put into every capture device that can detect, that can tell you whether the image being presented was ever captured by a device. That technology would be good enough to detect fakes. However, that requires the change of every camera, every microphone, every phone, and that's going to take more than 20 years. So those are the things I hypothesize in this story.
That's a great story. That's amazing. I can't wait to write our blog around this and get it out and share this with the world. Nia, we have time for a few more.
You talked about AI's impact on healthcare and education. What other industries do you think will be most disrupted by AI in the next decade?
And Kai-Fu, let me add to that. I keep on tracking advertising as being disrupted. Can I put a premise to you and tell me what you think? If all of a sudden my AI knows what I want, even better than I know, because it watches my eyes, it feels my blood pressure, my heart rate, it knows what I normally order, and it knows what I have in my house and so forth. And if we reach a point where our AI is doing our buying for us, then advertisers are not going to be advertising to AIs. They're going to be advertising to you. But if you've given your authority to an AI to order your clothes, your groceries, your toothpaste for you, that seems to me like that could be a real problem for Google and the advertising business.
Yeah, I think the scenario you paint is very real. The ads are seemingly already pretty smart, but they don't really target individuals as much, right? Google AdWords target keywords, which are very valuable, but not exactly what you described. Facebook ads can target groups of people like you. So that's somewhat powerful. But as you said, in the future, if there is an entity that knows everything about us, it can target us perfectly. So the question is, what would that entity be? I think none of us would want to give all our data to Google or Facebook or any company. That's why in the story, in the Isle of Happiness, we talk about what if it made you happy? Would you be willing to exchange it? What if the entity is trustworthy? Let's say it's a benevolent king who has absolute power over you anyway. Would you trust it? That's the question that's raised. Alternatively, if privacy computing works incredibly great, so all the data is held in your phone. You don't give away your personal data to anyone, but the phone is able to answer questions. So let's say you have an agent that can effectively talk to Amazon, and it knows everything you want, but it doesn't give away any detail, but it tells Amazon what products to show you or to show it. I think that's a great a way that lets you have a cake and eat it too. And another technology that's related to advertising that we briefly talked about is the new natural language breakthroughs. We call it foundation models. And basically that is a huge natural language model like GPT-3 combined with ability to fine tune into any domain. So it's a giant model, but let's say we augment the model by saying, okay, here's a giant model. We're going to fine tune it for selling a toothpaste or a Tesla or a Coca-Cola to Peter. Here are 1 million words that describe Peter, right? What he's written, what he said, and everything about Peter. Here's everything about let's say, the new Tesla model. And advertising engine generate a particular ad to get Peter to buy the next Tesla model. Think about how powerful that is. That is so much more powerful than Facebook creating an ad for people like you, which is a very big approximation.
I have seen that, and I've seen a GPT-3 based company that will optimize your marketing language for you. It's not that far away.
It's not, and if you extrapolate that though, it's like Cambridge Analytica on steroids. So it has many bad implications too. The future of political ads that influence the future of social influence, the next generation of social dilemma. So it's both exciting, huge amount of money on it, $1 trillion business, but also a lot of potential downside in that same technology.
Amazing. I think we probably need to wrap the questions there, Kai-Fu. Listen, congratulations on this book. Super excited. I think getting the world intelligent about what is likely to see. I mean, people fear what they don't know or what they don't see coming. And so educating people about the scenarios and getting people to think about it is extraordinarily valuable. And I thank you. I thank you for this. Let me just take a second for the community here. I'll be pushing out information about the book on September 14th when it comes out. I commend you guys to buy it. I'm going to buy the Audible for sure. This Friday, August 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, I'm going to be with you for an AMA. So, and Ask Me Anything. Let's talk about what we heard here with Kai-Fu. And then at noon, there'll be a Zoom breakout session among the members. So please consider that. And then next Tuesday, I'm going to be joined by the CEO of Miro Health. And Miro Health is a company that's focused on mental health treatments. And so it's a tech company focused on helping people, especially coming out of the pandemic, with mental health issues. So again, this Friday at 11 a.m., I'll be seeing you next. Kai-Fu, what's next for you? And by the way, good morning in Beijing. So breakfast might be next, but where are you heading next over the year ahead? What are you thinking about?
Well, for my work, I got to find more AI companies, and we're excited about healthcare, AI in manufacturing. I think are some of the biggest opportunities, especially here in China. I'm very much on the other side of non-work. I'm looking forward to publicizing my book and hopefully turning it into the White Mirror series of the more.
We need that instead of Black Mirror.
Yeah, the constructive Black Mirror. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing all my friends, especially you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. I'm so grateful to call you a friend and have you in my life. Out of curiosity, is Sinovation's focused on investments solely in China right now, or are you doing investments in the US too?
We haven't done too much foreign investments because of COVID. We did make a recent investment in a French high-tech company recently. So we make some investments outside China, but COVID makes it hard.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. And again, thank you for the work that you do. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.